sure tells me what their policies are. I like to know what the attorneys are thinking. Same thing with the 6th, 7th, and I think the 8th is now out. That's policy. That's what they want. They're telling the attorneys what they want the attorneys to know. The 4th edition and earlier has real law in it, common law. Okay? But they're stripping out the common law. And they want to go purely to statutory law. Well, good reason. Statutory law is the law of the special interest. Common law is the law of the people. They don't want that. So the statutory law is being modified through education or lack of it rather than an honest argument in the legislature and so forth. And one in particular has to do with what a court of record is. And there are 5 factors that define a court of record. In Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition, they're all listed. In Black's Law Dictionary, 5th edition, they took out 3 of them. Okay, we'll get into that in a moment. But language is very important. In America, we speak 3 languages. Every one of us speaks 3 languages. Okay? All 3 are called English. So they don't make us aware of them as separate languages, but they are. Now, the most unstable form of language, the one that changes from day to day, street to street, town to town, is called slang. That's English. Now, just think of the tough time foreigners have here. You have a foreigner with you, okay? He's listening to what you say. You walk in, there's a party. You don't know what's going on, so you say, hey, what's coming off? Going on, coming off means the same thing in slang, right? So, a foreigner who doesn't know the idioms, the slang, is in trouble. So in order to communicate with foreigners, and also a foreigner means even somebody from a different city or a different culture, whatever, we have another language we call formal English. That's the language that comes out of the book. We learn it in school, and we learn to talk about that, and that language is a lot more stable. It takes 50 years or 100 years to change the meaning of a word, and even then it's still fairly stable. But there are differences. Have any of you ever studied the meaning of resident? Okay? The word resident, as it's used on the streets in formal English, doesn't mean what it means in the courtroom. Okay? And that's where the 3rd language is spoken, courtroom English. You absolutely must study each language separately as if it were a separate language. Do not assume when you are studying law that you know what those words mean. What I did, when I started reading the Constitution, I had the Law Dictionary right next to me. And every word that was used the first time in the Constitution, I looked it up. Boy, did I get some surprises. So, you look up these words, you learn these languages, and you'll find out, and the most obvious example is the word resident. In ordinary language, resident means this is where you live, this is your home, this is where you are, right? By right. But the legal meaning of resident means that you're a foreigner, you're here for a specific purpose, and when you complete that purpose, you will leave, you will go home, back across the border, wherever you came from. Okay? Are you a resident of California? That means you came from outside of California. Where did you come from if you came from outside of California? Well, to find that out, I always ask the person, are you a citizen of the United States? He says, yes. I know he came from the District of Columbia. Okay? That's his real home. So, the legal meaning is important, so be careful how you use words. I hear people throwing words around. I hear them using phrases carelessly. How about without prejudice? Have you ever seen somebody create an affidavit and at the bottom sign it without prejudice? I bet a lot of you have. I know I've seen it quite a bit. What does without prejudice mean? It means you're reserving all your rights and you really didn't mean anything by this. This is not a commitment to tell the truth, even though you called it an affidavit. That's what it means in legal language. So I'm just alerting you, without getting into too much detail, that there are 3 languages in America, and be aware of it, and be sure you're speaking the right language when you go to court. Okay. Let's get right into the first thing. People or citizen? Which one are you? You better be a people if you want to use this technique. If you're a citizen, believe me, you're going to get hurt. Okay, so you better be a people. And you better understand what it is. Well, there's no real definition of people. I cannot honestly tell you what a people is. By the way, the word people can be either plural or singular. Okay? So it is correct English to say, you are a people. I am a people. Or all of us together are people. Plural or singular is correct. So I don't have a definition that I can draw on what a people is. But what I can do is I can define the relationship between people and government. Whatever a people is, I know it's above government and outranks government. Let's look at the preamble. You see, before the United States was formed, there was no government. Yeah, we had King George as our leader, and we were his subjects. But 2 things happened that were significant. One of the things that happened was that we rejected King George. Declaration of Independence. The second thing that happened was King George canceled the charters. Nothing. We were a free people then, both from our point of view and from England's point of view. It was really a mistake, on legally speaking, on King George's part. So there's no precedent. We were all literally sovereigns. But we were not ignorant sovereigns. Like I told you, Harvard University was over 100 years old at the time of the American Revolution. We were a culture, and we had a way of knowing. Did you know that before the American Revolution, the English booksellers sold more law books to the Americans than they did to the people in England or the subjects in England? We were all lawyers. In fact, an admiral wrote back to the king saying he couldn't enforce the king's laws because everybody in America is a lawyer. Lawyer means know the law. Okay, not an attorney who represents somebody. He said they all know the law. And he said, by night, they're destroying the king's properties, and by day they were sitting on the grand juries and blocking us from prosecuting. Okay, well, it was a problem for the king's men. So, but you see, later we were still lawyers, but we were all now sovereign. Every one of us. There was no higher law. So they did a little experiment. The states themselves, understand this, not the people, but the states themselves organized themselves, and they came up with this Confederation of States. Okay? And that didn't work out so well, apparently, so they sent a bunch of representatives to fix things, and the representatives apparently took a new tack, and they, instead of representing the states like they were sent to do, they declared themselves to be people. And using their own sovereignty, which they had all along, they created a new entity called the Constitution for the United States of America. And so then they said, look, I'm paraphrasing, but you will find what I'm telling you at the end of the Constitution in the last couple of paragraphs. Basically what they said is, look, we created this thing, but we're not going to put the Constitution into effect unless at least 9 of you states agree to it. Well, they got the 9 to agree to it, one way or another. But those were states, understand, that wasn't people. The people created the Constitution. The states decided to join in as separate entities. So now we have 10 entities, right? The states were 9 of them, and the people were the 10th one. So now we have this Constitution, and there have been court cases that recognize that the Constitution is a document of the people and not a document of the states. It was created by the people. Okay? So, now, I know that there's a lot of stuff you've probably heard about. For example, we're all subjects of the Queen of England now. Anybody heard that one? We've heard about, yes.
Can we get a second so we can turn the tape?
Okay, time out to flip the tape here. Yes, sir.
Quick question. Is that book, The Devil and Webster?
The book is on the CD that you will get. The Devil and Daniel Webster, right. Everything you see up here is on the CD. Okay. So, there's been a lot of these theories. And I'm sure you've heard people say, well, there's a big scam going on. Well, I'll tell you what, I think they're right. But I don't pay any attention to it, even though I think they're right. Why? Because when I walk into court, the only thing that means anything when I'm in court is what comes up on top of the table. And if we are under the Queen of England, they better put it on the table, otherwise it won't work. Okay? It doesn't matter what the lie is if they don't bring it out. So, I pretend, because I don't know everything. I just move ahead, I pretend. We've got a Constitution, we've got the statutes, we've got the codes, we've got the rules of court. I presume that they're all there, and I move forward as if they were real. And there has not yet been one judge or prosecutor or defense attorney who has had the guts to say, wait a minute, we have a scam working against you and you can't do that. Okay? They may have a commitment to that hidden system, but they also have a commitment to try and fool me. They can't let that secret out. So I just go on ahead and exercise it, and it seems to work. So I just don't worry about all these complicated theories. Also, I don't worry about what the specific statutes are in this type of thing. Unless I'm applying it to them, then I do worry. But it doesn't apply to me because I'm in my sovereign capacity. And we'll get into that. But here's where it comes from. You look at the preamble, okay? And in the preamble, it says, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic, and you've got a laundry list of tasks here. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Well, if we have a Constitution, I'm going to take the Constitution at face value in the courts. Okay? And this is legal language now. This is not formal English. This is not slang. This is legal English we're looking at here. So, it says, we the people. Does it say what the people are? No. So I can't tell you what the people are. But it also says where we're from. We're from the United States. To me, that means the states that are united. We're from there. Doesn't mean I'm subject. It just means I'm from there. And in order to do this laundry list of tasks, we the people ordain and establish this Constitution for whom? Not for you, not for me, but for them, the United States of America. The United States is 2 words. The United States of America is 4 words. The United States is the states united. The United States of America is that 10-mile square plot of land called the District of Columbia, and all the properties that they may own wherever they may be. That's the United States of America. The United States of America is a trust, a public corporation. It is not a country. Technically, the United States of America is not a country. The states are countries. The states have governors. How can you tell the United States of America is not a country and that it's actually a corporation?